Good morning, everyone, and welcome to NYSE TV Live. I'm Kristen Schiller here in studio above the iconic trading floor. Well, we are officially just a week away from Election Day here in the United States. And your vote, of course, will decide who the next president will be. It'll also determine the balance of power in Washington, and collectively it'll impact you and your money. That's why, of course, we're going to be covering more about the storylines regarding the election and investing heading in to next Tuesday. But this week, between early voting, which has already been underway, key economic data, including the jobs report and earnings from the biggest companies out there, namely these technology firms, it is shaping up to be a busy few days on Wall Street. So let's take a look at what's on tap in today's show. Well, we're just about 30 minutes away from the market open, and peak earnings season has officially arrived. Chief Investment Officer is going to join me to break down how results from the largest technology companies out there will drive the overall direction of the major indexes. Plus, Money 2020 is still underway in Las Vegas. It's an annual event gathering the top minds in financial technology and innovation. Our Trinity Chavez will join me for on-the-ground reports. And as we cover the future of finance, we'll hear from the head of U.S. operations for the social investing platform eToro. He sat down with the NYSE's Judy Shaw. Well, as we approach that market open, stocks are looking at fractional losses here. Comes after the major indexes ended with fractional gains on Monday. So for more, I do want to bring in my next guest, as 5 of the 7 magnificent 7 stocks are set to report this week. Chris Versace, Tematica Research Chief Investment Officer, joins me with more. Chris, it's great to see you, and quantify how important these technology results are that we'll be getting these next few days.
So, Kristen, great to be with you. And it is, a very, very big week. On the one hand, we would say, there are over 900 companies reporting, or 169 S&P 500 companies reporting. That's just about a third of that basket. But the real juice this week is going to be from what you just alluded to, 5 of the MAGA 7, if you will, the big 7, big tech 7. And who are they? They're going to be, starting after the close today, Alphabet, Amazon, Meta, Microsoft, and Apple. And the reason why these 5 stocks are going to be so important for the direction of the market, for what folks think about earnings expectations for the balance of the year and into 2025, is that collectively they account for about 23% of the S&P 500's weighting, and about 30% for the NASDAQ. So to the extent that their earnings surprise to the upside, perhaps leave Wall Street wanting, same for their guidance, it's going to be a big influence on how the market trades this week. So
I think you bring up a good point there, Chris. And the reason that we cover these stocks so closely is because, as you referenced, they account for a quarter of the weighting of the S&P 500, of course, a market cap weighted index. So people will see that impacted on their 401ks or their other investment portfolios. Each of these technology companies is different, but the focus on artificial intelligence has been palpable for at least 18 months now. How important is the commentary from these executives in the report on the earnings call when it comes to AI investments?
It's going to be critical. Coming into it, we've got some very good comments from ServiceNow, SAP, and other companies about AI adoption. But you have to remember that these big tech companies have been increasing their capital spending on AI, on data centers. So the crux, I think, of what folks are going to want to focus on is, are they starting to see not only AI adoption accelerate, but what about the monetization of that spending? What's the outlook for that, not only in the current quarter, but into 2025? And do they need to increase that capital spending yet again?
Even though we see stocks down fractionally pre-market, Chris, we know that we're hovering right near record highs, and the S&P and the Dow coming off their strongest weekly winning streak as of just about 10 days ago. What do you expect for markets heading into these final 2 months, knowing that October will be wrapping up soon?
Yeah, I mean, we're heading into typically what is a very nice time of year for the markets. If you look historically, November, December are very good for the overall market. I suspect that will likely be the case, but we could also get some bumps along the way. You know, the S&P 500's valuation north of 24 times consensus 2024 earnings stretched. You know, there is the election next week. There are reasons to think that the Fed could deliver some softer guidance for rate cuts in the balance of the year. So I think folks need to be prepared for a pullback, but that could bring an opportunity to pick up well-positioned companies at better prices.
So we'll be listening closely to AI investments, of course, from these technology names. We will be listening to it from some of the chip stocks as well, Chris. But what could actually change the direction of the market over the course of the next few months?
I think the biggest issue would probably be if the Fed simply decides that rather than delivering the 2 rate cuts that the market expects it will, it delivers 1, potentially none, Kristen, because you know we look at the strength of the economy, 3.3% according to the Atlanta Fed GDP Now model. Flash PMI data said that strength is going to continue into the current quarter. New order data says that November should be strong as well. Perhaps the Fed doesn't need to cut rates. That could be the biggest issue that the market has to contend with.
Interesting. So I do want to ask a bit more about the data, Chris. We are going to get that jobs report, as you referenced, on Friday. We have had market experts and economists come on this show and tell me that the jobs report Friday could be skewed because of the strikes that we've seen, including at Boeing in the past several weeks, as well as extreme weather. Hurricanes Helene and Milton having an impact as well. What do investors need to know going into that jobs report on Friday?
It's real simple. If the jobs report is meaningfully ahead of the consensus number that's anywhere from 110 to 140,000 jobs, it's going to increase the odds that the Fed does less next week, or at least signals that it's open to doing less between now and the end of the year. Remember, September was a very strong month for job creation, far greater than folks were looking for. Indications out of that flash PMI report is that it's only going to be down modestly in October.
Interesting. Now, of course, I referenced at the top of the show that we're just 1 week away from the presidential election. Early voting has been happening, at least here in the Northeast, in the New York area. So people have been casting their votes ahead of time. How does that factor in what we could see for stocks?
It's a big unknown at this point. If you take a look at what some of the quote smart money is doing, they seem to be preparing for a potential Trump presidency. But with the polling so close, Kristen, it's going to come down to the wire. And I would even argue that we may not know who the president is until after the Fed's policy meeting next week. That says the Fed is flying blind potentially, but I think they're going to stick to their knitting, focusing on their dual mandate.
Interesting. So in addition to the jobs data that we'll get on Friday, Chris, we have inflation data on Thursday, and we have GDP growth on Wednesday. You had made a nod earlier. The Atlanta Fed had actually upped its third quarter GDP projection. The report that we will get on Wednesday does cover the third quarter. Are there parts of this economy that are outperforming?
Oh, no question. The service side of the economy is carrying, you could say, the overall economy. The manufacturing side, given the data from S&P Global ISM, is in contraction territory. So I think when we get this next round of data, we have to, contemplate that. But we also have to read very carefully into what we're seeing for job creation on the service side. And most importantly, Kristen, because this has been a bit of a thorn in the Fed's side, inflation in the services economy.
Right. So that's what we would pay at the dentist office, at the medical office, for a manicure, a pedicure, things like that. I want to get your take too, Chris, just in terms of housing, because that's a big part of this conversation as well. Whether you're renting or actually trying to buy a home, how does that factor into growth and affordability right now?
Well, affordability has been an issue. We've seen with the lack of, supply on the market that prices have remained at elevated levels. But to me, the bigger question is going to be the timetable for those Fed rate cuts, because as they continue to cut rates, into 2025, potentially into 2026, we will see mortgages come down. That could spur buyers at the margin. I'm actually bullish on the housing sector into 2026.
Chris Versace, thank you so much for kicking off the show with me. We'll check back in with Chris just after the market opens at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Chris, of course, is the Chief Investment Officer at Tematica Research. Well, stay with me because up next, we will go live on the ground in Las Vegas for the latest update on Money 2020. I'll be joined by my colleague, Trinity Chavez, up next.
Now, obviously, your focus is your 300 PF chains that you have around the world. But talk to me more about this new pagoda concept.
The type of service and food that we serve, which is made from scratch, high quality ingredients, great hospitality, great ambience, and that can be used in more use cases, more need states, more occasions, to more people more frequently. So the light bulb moment, if there's one, is wait a second, we can do a great job for you on a lunch during the week. And, and it can be very fast, can be very affordable, can be very, very abundant, and of course, delicious. We just have to adapt the way we do things, steps of service, abundance, price points, to be able to serve you this way.
Now, while you're remaining so agile with this ever-changing landscape in the food and beverage sector, how do you sustain your authenticity?
The brand has to know, what they stand for, right? In our case, every day is a celebration. We want to elevate every occasion and make it special to people, right? So if it's a day-to-day lunch, we created a concept here in the US that we call Express Lunch in our bistros, which is lunch in 20 minutes or lunch is on us. It's the same ingredients, same kitchen, same steps of service, just an individual bowl because that's the occasion there. So understand who the brand is, what the brand stands for, and what the consumer, the customer, in our case, the guests, the way they want to live their lives, and adapt ourselves to serve you this way. I believe that's where we found a lot of success, and we continue to do that moving forward.
How do you think your new pagoda concept will impact the broader food and beverage sector?
We believe we can play in a segment which is fast casual, where it's more a customizable, super fast, abundant experience that's very affordable, that we can put people through the line.
Welcome back to NYSE TV Live, everyone. I'm Kristen Scholler here in studio at the New York Stock Exchange. And as Money 2020 is underway in Las Vegas, it is covering innovative topics like open banking, generative AI, and cryptocurrency. My colleague Trinity Chavez is on the ground at the Venetian Resort where it is all unfolding. Trinity, it's great to see you this morning, and thanks for getting up very early with us out west.
Hey, Kristen, good morning. And it's a great morning here on the ground, Las Vegas, Nevada, as we are gearing up for another busy day covering Money 2020. And yesterday it was such a fascinating day. Key discussions included AI-driven fraud detection, payment innovations such as cross-border and real-time transactions, and of course, cryptocurrency and blockchain, as well as digital assets were one of the major themes in most of the sessions yesterday, as well as embedded finance and instant payments, further underscoring the digital revolution transforming finance. But also, some companies are transforming the end-to-end user experience. So, for example, MasterCard's crypto card program is bringing digital currency into everyday life, seamlessly connecting it to trusted, scalable payment networks with access across over 100 million locations worldwide. MasterCard says that it's using crypto for daily transactions, and it's easier than ever before. So let's take a listen to that.
We have billions of cards in the marketplace. People want to buy and sell crypto. So this is what the industry calls as on-ramp and off-ramp. So any of our cards can be used to buy crypto. We don't necessarily move the crypto behind the scenes, but we enable that use case to happen. That brings a lot of choice and scale to the ecosystem. And the reverse is true. So if you want to sell crypto and if you want to off-ramp it, that is available through MasterCard Send product, as well as we have crypto cards as well. Recently, we launched MetaMask. You may know that MetaMask is quite a famous, popular wallet on the self-custody side. And there used to be either you self-custody assets or you have it in an exchange and have a card pointed to it. Now we think that we can actually solve for both. We've developed a set of standards on the KYC side that enables self-custody wallets to have a card product. Now a MetaMask user with a MasterCard card can go to any of the 100 million plus locations out there and spend their crypto. So that is one practical way that we're bringing utility and choice to this ecosystem. And beyond that, we are working with the banks to tokenize their deposits to open up for everyday cross-border payments, which can get the benefit of programmability and real-time payments.
But it wasn't all about crypto and digital assets. NYSE-listed company Fiserv also joined us yesterday to discuss their recent financial performance and strategic initiative, as well as a major new partnership.
We had 28% revenue growth in Clover. Our regions outside the U.S. also are growing very, very strong. Our commitment to small business, our commitment to innovation, along with our e-commerce capabilities. So, you know, being able to serve every household across the U.S. and then in multiple countries has given us great geographic diversity and given us great capability from the largest retailers to the smallest pizzeria.
And you actually just recently announced your collaboration, your partnership rather, with DoorDash on the Crimson program. Can you talk to us more about that and why this is such a significant milestone for Fiserv?
Well, you know, what we did was create a solution set for DoorDash that allows them to be able to bring a better experience to their drivers, the Dashers. And it's really an integrated approach. It's using a series of products we have. We brought a couple of partners in, both in banking and in some other expertise, but ultimately it's our core product set, from our FinTech investment to how we treat the prepaid to merchant acquiring. So we feel really, really great about it. You could call it embedded finance, and it's a chance for us to be able to help them grow their business.
And Kristen, we also talked about their digital-first strategy with investments in major companies and Fiserv's role in the rapidly evolving fintech landscape. But our viewers can check out more of those full interviews, of course, on Taking Stock. They just need to download our NYSE TV app.
Trinity, it's been great to see some of the major game-changing names at this conference in Las Vegas, even from the government side of things when it comes to talking about this financial technology. What are some of the topics on that front that have been a part of these discussions?
Well, of course, regulation is another pivotal theme this year, especially in the context of the upcoming U.S. election is only a week away. So anticipated changes to the financial policies is what is really being talked about here at the conference this year. And industry leaders, of course, discuss how policy frameworks will be essential in balancing innovation and consumer protection as fintech companies become increasingly integrated into daily life overall, Kristen. So, sorry, I just got some interference there, but I just want to put, recap everything. But overall, the conference underscored that the future of fintech will heavily depend on collaboration among technology, regulation, and more AI-powered financial ecosystems. So, I mean, it's really been great that we've been able to cover all of these conversations here on the ground this year at Money 2020 at the Venetian in Las Vegas.
Trinity, I know we're going to be checking in with you throughout the show here, of course, for those live reports, talking more about some of the interviews that you've been able to conduct over the course of these past few days. So again, thank you for getting up very early out west for us. And for our viewers, stay with us, because up next, we're going to hear one of those conversations that Trinity had out in Vegas with Fireblocks. We'll have more on the other side.
I'm Isabella Bizone with Fixed Income in Focus. Today, I'm pleased to have with me Carol Schleif, Chief Investment Officer at BMO Family Office. So, Carol, Providing wealth management services to high net worth clients demands diversity across instruments. How are you and your clients using fixed income products, especially in this higher for longer rates environment?
We've always used a variety of fixed income products in the public and the private markets, from separately managed accounts managed internally or managed with outside managers that we use. We use mutual funds, ETFs. We can do private cap or private structured credit, and as well as a variety of structured notes. So we use it a lot, and one of the advantages we have to the current higher rate environment is that it allows us, if clients need money coming in the near term, it allows them to be able to sit in cash, which is something we haven't been able to do for a very long time. So there's a variety of ways to play it, especially with higher yields across most of the instruments we're using.
Absolutely. So speaking of a high rates environment, we've seen substantial market commentary during the rise of interest rates and inflation that challenges the traditional 60-40 equity to fixed income allocation. So in your role, how do you determine the appropriate allocation strategy, and have you seen any shifts in recent years?
Well, the interesting thing is that there was a lot of calls for the death of the 60-40 portfolio back in 2022 when both stocks and bonds were down so much. But it always starts with the individual client and what they're looking to do. And it also it can be different even within different generations of the family. Anything they're going to need in the next couple of years should not be in very long-term investments, should be shorter term. And as we were talking about, you have an ability to get paid to do that, which you haven't had for 10 to 15 years. So it's very bespoke per client, but we never.
Welcome back to NYSE TV Live, everyone. I'm Kristen Scholler here at the Stock Exchange. We are almost coast to coast today. Of course, I'm here above the trading floor. My colleague Trinity Chavez is out in Las Vegas. And Trinity, one of the big storylines that we've been following here, in addition, of course, to stocks at record highs, is cryptocurrency actually at its highest level since June, above 70,000, of course, as we approach the election and kick higher into gear for earnings season as well. I know you actually had the chance to speak to a company that offers a platform to manage these digital assets. What can you tell us?
Well, Kristen, I spoke to Fireblocks. You know, Fireblocks is a major player when it comes to digital assets, as you mentioned, and it's streamlined wallet infrastructure operations, treasury, and DeFi access across 60 plus blockchains. And as I said, I spoke to the CEO and co-founder, Michael Shalov, all about the evolving regulations in crypto, blockchain, and digital assets, and the impact of Stripe's acquisition of Bridge on the payment system space, as well as the upcoming election and how they could shape the industry. Take a look.
We basically provide infrastructure for the digital asset space for all the financial institutions that are working in the space, and basically what we help them is with the custody technology, settlement, tokenization. We're currently working with about 2,200 institutions that are leveraging our platform, from all the big banks to neobanks, fintech companies, and so on.
And you know, here at Money 2020 in Las Vegas, one of the big key topics of today's discussions and panels obviously was blockchain, cryptocurrency, and the regulation around that. Talk to me about what you're seeing right now in the sector from your vantage point.
Yeah, so I think that the sector is definitely maturing, at least globally, to the point of mass adoption. Of course, like we've been seeing this first and foremost in crypto adoption globally, that I think outside of the US, we are seeing a lot of countries, whether it's Europe, Latin America, and Asia, putting fairly good regulation in place. And on the back of that regulation, we're seeing a lot of adoption. And I think that the most interesting part right now is that we are seeing a lot of adoption of stablecoins for payments, which is very relevant for this conference, of course. But on Fireblocks, now more than 50% of the volume that we are processing, which is about this year, we're going to process $2.5 trillion worth of assets that are going to move through the platform. More than 50%, so 1.25 trillion, is actually stable coins, which is used for international cross-border payments.
There was just a recent announcement that Stripe acquired Bridge, one of your customers, right, for over $1 billion. Talk to me about what this means, why it's so significant, how it's going to impact the broader landscape.
Yeah, so I think it definitely accelerates the adoption in the space, especially that we are seeing the most cutting-edge payment service provider acquiring, and I think the statements that were done by the founders of Stripe about the fact that, I think I'm quoting them, that stable coins are the room temperature semiconductors of the payment space. So first of all, I think they're actually going to bring it to the mass market, embed it into their product, which is something that they were doing to a certain extent so far, but clearly bringing the bridge talent in-house and working with them is going to accelerate that. And I think that a lot of the other payment service providers are now looking at it and saying, we have to be in that game, we have to bring the capabilities, and we have to build the competency to do the same thing.
Regulatory frameworks around the cryptocurrency and digital asset space has obviously been at the forefront of many conversations, especially here as we were talking about. But talk to me about how the outcome of this election will impact this space.
Yeah, so I think that it's pretty clear what is the policy and the agenda that the potential Trump administration had put in place, and they're talking about four major things. The first one is to allow companies or fintech companies that are working with crypto to get banking services from the US banking market, which was, as we know, there was the Operation Choke Point going on for the last couple of years, so it was very, very difficult for any crypto player to get banking services. That is probably going to be lifted. We're talking about the stablecoin rule, the stablecoin legislation that is going to allow, there are different forms of it, but basically it will standardize and will allow the different fintech players and banks to interact with stablecoins. And lastly, we are looking at a regulatory scheme that will allow the banks to custody digital assets and to interact directly with digital assets. That is something that was limited to prohibited in the last 4 years.
Can you tell me more about what your expansion plans are from your vantage point, especially when it comes to DeFi?
Yeah, so DeFi has been at the forefront of what we were doing at Fireblocks. We have several hundreds of clients that are interacting with DeFi through the platform because it gives them better liquidity, better opportunities. And what we are doubling down on is two main things in DeFi. The first one is to provide secure access and to enhance the security around DeFi. So as most people that are somehow familiar with the space, a lot of the hacks and a lot of the issues that we were seeing in crypto are related to DeFi. So creating the perimeter around the security and compliance such that institutional players are able to interact. This is something that Fireblocks is now working to bring. And the second capability is that to allow simplified access. So we're actually now partnering with the blue chip protocols in crypto and in DeFi to bring them directly into the Fireblocks platform so our clients will be able to seamlessly interact with DeFi.
And Kristen, I do want to point out that Michael also said that this partnership will enhance security and simplify the whole user experience in digital finance. Everything from protecting assets from hacks to making it easier for users to access services like lending and earning interest without the hassle, of course, of managing complicated private keys. So essentially, this partnership aims to open up the DeFi space while also ensuring users feel secure and supported. And I have to say, this is just one of the many conversations that I have had here on the ground, just talking about some of the innovative technologies that are reshaping the whole financial sector. And I'm really excited to even talk to you about the conversation that I had with the president of Money 2020, as well as the chief strategy and growth officer of Money 2020, talking about the different landscapes that we're seeing when it comes to the Asian market compared to the European market and the US market, of course. So again, a lot of key conversations that we're having here on the ground, and and then I look forward to covering them all with you.
Trinity Chavez, live for us on the ground in Las Vegas. Trinity, thank you so much. And we are following those digital assets, as Trinity was just discussing. I mentioned earlier, Bitcoin above 70,000 for the first time since June. Of course, that is a Trump trade. The expectation that former President Trump, if elected, would be friendly toward cryptocurrency, and even some crypto bigwigs trying to steer Kamala Harris into a more crypto-friendly environment as well. So we've seen that. Digital currency certainly on a tear as the major stock market indexes do sit right near record highs. We do see fractional losses here at the open. Let's take a listen. Of course, the CEO of Paramount Group celebrating the opening bell there on the podium. 10 years ago that this real estate investment trust, or REIT, first listed here on the stock exchange. Trades with the ticker symbol PGRE, and here today to celebrate that anniversary. Well, the past decade under the CEO's leadership has seen the commercial real estate group's continued growth and success. And he was named CEO in 2014, also serves as the company's chair and president. Well, Paramount owns, operates, and manages high-end office properties in certain markets, including here in New York City and on the West Coast in San Francisco. Company taking pride in being the landlord of choice. That the company caters to clients in the financial, legal, media, and other professional industries. Its assets include over 7 million square feet of commercial property in Midtown Manhattan and almost 4.5 million of the same in San Francisco. Well, in addition to sponsoring philanthropic events like community food drives, coat, toy, and blood drives, Paramount is a leader in environmental responsibility, prioritizing sustainability, trying to reduce energy consumption and greenhouse gas emissions, while still providing the high level of service and amenities that its clients expect. All right, well, as we are officially off to the races here, stocks taking a little bit of a breather this morning after fractional gains yesterday, still right near record highs. And rejoining me as promised is Chris Versace. He is a chief investment officer at Tematica Research. Chris, great to have you. And as we start this trading day together, what do our viewers need to know?
Well, the pace of earnings, as we talked about earlier, is really going to accelerate. We've had earnings this morning, McDonald's, Pfizer, but it's really what happens after the bell today with Alphabet kicking off what is going to be a very important week of big tech earnings. And as we talked about, earlier, those results are going to drive the next move in the market, as well as potentially reshape earnings expectations for the back half of this year and into 2025.
Of course, earnings do drive the gains that we see in the markets, but you mentioned the Fed policy earlier. What do you anticipate that we hear from Fed Chair Jerome Powell when he delivers that press conference just after the presidential election?
So I think he's likely to say that, we continue to see, a robust economy. We continue to see good progress on inflation, but it's what he says about the pace of rate cuts that's really going to matter most. And Kristen, candidly, the data that we've gotten so far says that the Fed does not need to cut rates, but we do have several pieces of data coming over the next few days that could influence what Powell actually says. I'm referring to, of course, the third quarter GDP print that we'll get tomorrow, inflation data on Thursday, and of course, Friday's all-important employment report.
I want to get your take on cryptocurrency, Chris. I'm not sure how closely you follow it, but it's been interesting to see, especially heading into the election, that the price of Bitcoin, for instance, is above 78,000 for the first time that we've seen in months. How would you describe the correlation, or perhaps lack thereof, of cryptocurrency as it ages in terms of its digital asset territory and, of course, U.S. equity markets?
So I have to say that it's not a item that we track super closely. It is part of our digital payments strategy over at Tematico. But having said that, though, I think the big issue is whether or not the regulatory environment becomes incrementally favorable under the next administration for Bitcoin and other competing offerings in the digital coin space. To me, that's been the biggest risk. You know, when you have something that could be dramatically impacted by the stroke of a regulatory pen, so to speak, it really keeps folks down the sideline. If that changes, it potentially makes Bitcoin, that much more of a mainstream investment vehicle. I think we could see it go higher.
Interesting. Are there any trades or stocks that you've seen that are more closely correlated, for instance, to Bitcoin than others?
No, not. I mean, I'm sure that there are. Again, it's not something that we tend to focus in on. At Tematica, we really look at the shifting landscapes of, the economy, technology, psychographics, and other factors, trying to identify structural tailwinds and companies that really benefit from that. And you could argue that, Chris, why isn't Bitcoin in there, right? That sounds like a perfect recipe for that. But again, it's been that regulatory holdback that we've been concerned about. If that changes, I think we might take another look at it, most likely in the form of an ETF.
Chris, my last question to you is, with stocks right near record highs, where do we stand on valuations? And purely on a valuation metric, how much further do you think this bull market can run?
Well, that's a great question. The S&P 500 trading as of last night north of 24 times. We've only seen that a few times since 2000. And usually when earnings expectations are falling, not rising like they are for this year and for next year, it tells me expectations for the market as we move deeper into earnings, Kristen, are extremely high. A note of caution is what I would say to investors. Be careful.
Chris Versace joining me from Tematica Research. Chris, always a pleasure. Thank you so much. He's a Chief Investment Officer over there at Tematica. All right, well, one storyline driving the major indexes this year, as I was discussing with Chris, has been the election. In fact, stocks usually outperform during election years, and we've seen the S&P with double-digit gains so far in 2024. Well, with voting day now just a week away, Intercontinental Exchange and the New York Stock Exchange have launched the Vote campaign. Let's take a look as we head into the break.
Together, we achieve greatness.
A house divided against itself cannot stand.
Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Hello and welcome to today's edition of The Exchange, brought to you by the New York Stock Exchange. I am live on the floor with my friend Stephen Lee, founding partner and portfolio manager at Logan Capital. Stephen, thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for having us.
So I want to talk about your ETF. It's LCLG, easy to remember. It's the Logan Capital Broad Innovative Growth ETF. Tell us a little bit about the strategy behind this ETF.
Yeah, it's a strategy my team and I have been running since the 1990s. So we've been through a lot of different markets together, and we really focus on doing three things. We spend a lot of time looking at the economy. What are the trends? We expanding, contracting. Whose customers have a higher propensity to buy? We do a lot of quantitative work based on earnings leadership, which has allowed us to find names before everyone's talking about them. And we do technical analysis, which gives us the perspective to be long-term investors and capture gains over the long term.
So I want to talk a little bit about the FANG stocks, the Magnificent Seven. Like, we've got these different combinations that are out there, right? When you look at those, how have they affected your portfolio construction, the way you think about risk management?
You know, they've been a great source of opportunity for us because, as I mentioned earlier, we tend to find names a little earlier than our peers, and we have some very good disciplines about risk management and position sizing. So very often we'll find that those stocks have been, as they appreciate and become big parts of the benchmark, we can sell into that strength and then use our earnings leadership work to find the next generation names. So often when the FANG stocks get to be a big part of the benchmark, our risk reduction has us taking profits and planting seeds for the future.
So let's talk about current investments, recent investments. You know, are there certain names in the portfolio? You know, where has performance been coming from for your ETF?
Sure. Well, it's interesting. Obviously, we've had some of those big tech names that everyone knows. As I mentioned, they've gotten to be big parts of the portfolio. So then we've trimmed those, bought next generation leaders. So companies like an Arista Networks. In the consumer, we've been a little more constructive on the consumer than some.
Welcome back to NYSE TV Live, everyone. I'm Kristen Scholler here in studio. Well, as we talk about the future of finance, one company is trying to make investing both easier and more approachable. eToro is a social investing platform, and the NYSE's Judy Shaw sat down with the CEO of its U.S. operations earlier this month. Let's take a look at their conversation.
I love that idea of just people feeling empowered from going from a customer to investor, and I'm really thankful at eToro, people can invest with just $10.
Andrew, it's wonderful to have you on Floor Talk here at NYSE International Day.
Yeah, thanks so much for the opportunity. Love being at the New York Stock Exchange. Have to say, yesterday at the trading floor, I loved it because I think it is the one place in the world that is just as loud as my house. So I feel right at home here and glad to be here. So thank you so much.
Andrew, financial accessibility and education is paramount to eToro's values. As a fintech leader and a father of 4, how do you plan to teach your kids about finance and investing?
Yeah, great question. So eToro, we strive to have a retail trading platform that is easy to use, to understand, that customers use it and they feel empowered and encouraged and excited. And we love to have creativity everywhere. And I take those exact same principles when I talk to my kids, whether we're at Chipotle or we're watching Disney Plus or we're at the Nike store. I love telling them we are actually teeny tiny owners of these companies. These are our companies and they get excited, their eyes light up. And I love that idea of just people feeling empowered from going from a customer to investor. And I'm really thankful at eToro, people can invest with just $10 to invest in the companies they love. And so these same kind of ideas I use with my kids are applicable to our own customer base. Let's try to make investing accessible, but also engaging and fun and empowering.
Now, eToro recently released the findings from the Retail Investor Beat survey. What are some of the trends that you're seeing in the retail investor group?
Yeah, so the Retail Investor Beat is a quarterly survey that we look at retail investors and try to get that behind the scenes look at what they're thinking about, whether it's their portfolios, financial markets, or the big newsworthy headline events. And it should come as no surprise because as you see in all the news headlines, it's all about the presidential election. As we see on our Instagram pages or Facebook feeds, it's presidential election all the time. So it's no surprise that we also ask investors about that topic in the latest survey. Some pretty interesting results. So just like in the US, we see a pretty evenly divided country politically. Retail investors are reacting the same way in like a 50-50 manner. About 50% of customers or retail investors, they're going to wait and see what happens with the election. And, we'll see what happens on election night, and then we'll adjust our portfolios and make different investment choices. But then the other half, they're taking action now based on what they think will happen in early November. And so it's very interesting to see. And I think what I find most fascinating and kind of cool because it defies some stereotype, it's actually the younger investors who are more proactive. So Generation Z, the millennials, which I'm barely in that category at this point, but these younger investors are actually proactive at this point. And about half of Gen Z investors are buying stocks now in anticipation of what may happen in November with the election. And so regardless of what happens with the election, regardless of political beliefs, I think it's super cool to see young investors being engaged, being proactive, and taking steps now and thinking about how these big events will affect their personal lives and also their portfolios.
Now, you've recently taken on the role as head of eToro US. What can we expect to see from eToro into 2025?
So eToro has a long history of making capital markets accessible for retail investors around the globe. And innovation is always our heartbeat, and it's deep in our DNA. And that's certainly the case for eToro US today, in 2025, and as Buzz Lightyear says, to infinity and beyond. So we love having a platform where investors have a lot of choice and a lot of freedom. So they can invest in stocks, ETFs, options, cryptocurrencies, and even earn interest on cash. So we are proud of those wide variety of trading features, but even more so, we're proud of the educational resources and tools we make available to our customers. So we have tons of news articles, social commentary, risk scores. We even have demo accounts where people can practice trading without putting real money at risk. So we're really proud of this abundance of resources. So we have all these trading features and educational resources. We want to go all ahead on both of those categories, and, release new features, make existing features better, and just empowering investors with more information and more tools, because that's our passion. We want to empower investors through education and practice also, and just give people the freedom to invest how they wish, when they wish, and we'll give them the resources to do so. And those kind of principles are what guide us every single day.
All right, well, Andrew, congratulations on your new role, and thank you for joining me on Floor Talk today. It's been great to talk with you.
Yeah, thanks so much again, Judy.
Great to hear their conversation there, and stay with us because up next we're going to be talking the Yankees, of course, losing to the Dodgers in Game 3. Game 4 is on tap. Stay with us. Keith Azari will join me next.
Now, Matt, talk about the specialty services broadly and how Evernorth serves the specialty market.
Absolutely. Evernorth is a leader in the specialty space. A little bit of context. Specialty drugs are those that are used to treat patients with complex conditions like rheumatoid arthritis, MS, or even cancer. Very often these are infused or injectable medications. They'll typically have strict storage and handling requirements. We have some drugs in specialty that need to be infused into a patient 24/7. Even a lapse in treatment of just a few minutes can lead to serious medical consequences. The medications can also be quite costly. There are some specialty drugs that can cost hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars per patient. And we expect demand for these specialty drugs to increase significantly over the next several years, and that's fueled by a wave of complex drug innovation. I'll give you one data point on that. Last year, over 70% of the drugs that were approved by the FDA were specialty drugs. Now, in the specialty space, we have several different ways at Evernorth that we serve the market. We have our leading specialty pharmacy, Accredo, where we treat over 1 million patients with over 7 million specialty prescriptions annually. We have our specialty distributor, CuraScript, where we serve over 12,000 healthcare providers. And then we have a collaboration with a company called CarePath RX that serves over 700 hospitals, health systems, and providers, and provides specialty pharmacy and infusion services on their behalf.
Now, Matt, we know that specialty drugs are expensive for both the healthcare system and for patients. What is Evernorth doing to increase access and affordability to these life-saving medications?
There's a lot that we do, and one example that I would highlight is our focus on the adoption of
Welcome back to NYSE TV Live, everyone. I'm Kristen Schiller here at the New York Stock Exchange. It's been a tough few days to be here in New York because the Yankees unfortunately losing in Game 3 to the Los Angeles Dodgers. That game last night at Yankee Stadium. Well, joining me now with more is Keith Irizarry. He's a host at the MLB Network. Keith, it's great to have you on the show today. I wish we had better news for the Yankees. What does this mean as we head into Game 4 tonight?
Yeah, Kristen, great to be with you. And I don't know, it might be the Dodgers getting to ring the bell tonight with a sweep. I hope not. All New York fans are hoping not. Listen, I thought that last night was an interesting game because you're back at Yankee Stadium, you're down 2-0. A lot of people will tell you that a series doesn't really begin until a road team wins, and the road team took the steam out right away. Freddie Freeman with the big 2-run home run. The 40-plus thousand people that were in attendance at Yankee Stadium just looked shook. They looked quiet, and they looked like, here we go again. The Yankees are struggling. I think that's where I would at least start with that game from last night.
Yeah, look, I think a lot of New Yorkers disappointed that we haven't seen Aaron Judge really come alive in this series just yet. You referenced we're going into Game 4 tonight. What's the mindset these players like Judge need to adopt to try to avoid a clean sweep by the Dodgers?
Oh, my goodness. There are so many things that go into this, right? Well, first and foremost, we start with Aaron Judge, who, 58 home runs this year, batted well over 300, going to be the American League MVP, all-world baseball player. this has been the struggle bus for him during this postseason and during this series in particular. 1 for 12, 7 strikeouts, and just looks, dare I say, uncomfortable at the plate. And it's not something that you're used to with Aaron Judge, right? And then the rest of this lineup Soto's been good and Stanton's been good, but the rest of the lineup has had a lot of struggling moments. Rizzo has struggled, and Volpe is 1 for 12 as well with a boatload of strikeouts. So I think it starts with, can you get to the Dodgers pitchers early? And they have not announced a starting pitcher yet, the LA Dodgers, so the assumption is they're going to go with what's called a bullpen game. Luis Gil will go for the New York Yankees. If the Yankees can score early, maybe build a little momentum, maybe start believing. Listen, no one has ever come back from down 3-0 in the World Series. It's only happened once in the playoffs, and Yankee fans do not want to talk about that because it was them who gave up that lead to the Boston Red Sox.
Oh boy, Keith, we'll be watching tonight. There's no doubt about that. But I do want to ask more about pitching, right? Because that's where the Yankees were actually supposed to have an edge. But you, I think, rightly point out here, obviously the Dodgers have been taking the lead there. How has that changed the game?
Yeah, it really has, because Garrett Cole pitched great in game number 1, but, so did Flaherty for the LA Dodgers. Coming into the series, and I was talking on other networks, I thought if the Yankees had an edge, it was going to be the starting pitching, right? Garrett Cole, a Cy Young winner. Carlos Rodon, when he is on, one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. And then you would go on from there. And you would hope that you would get Garrett Cole at least 2 starts, maybe 3, right? Well, now you've got Yamamoto, dominated in game number 2 for the LA Dodgers. Look, every bit of the guy that they spent, almost $300 million to get in the offseason. He pitched 6 innings, had 4 strikeouts. Last night, Walker Buehler turned back the clock, and he looked amazing. By the way, he's 3-0 in his career in the World Series, starts with a .50 ERA. And last night, he just had the bats off kilter for the from the LA Dodgers for the New York Yankees. So really, this is a tale of the bats not working so well for the New York Yankees, and maybe it's because the LA Dodgers pitching staff has been absolutely fantastic. They've been dynamic, and it's been really difficult to watch, again, if you're a Yankee fan.
Keith, 20 seconds, your expectations for Game 4 tonight.
Yankees win tonight. They don't get swept. I think that Aaron Judge finally breaks out, hits a home run. I believe it'll end up being too late because I think the Yankees will end up losing in the next one, but I do believe they win tonight. No sweep.
All right, Keith, that's what us New Yorkers like to hear. Keith Arizari, host of the MLB Network. Keith, thank you so much for joining. Again, a reminder to our viewers, Game 4 of the 2024 World Series tonight at Yankee Stadium against the LA Dodgers. Well, stay with us because up next we'll have more coverage heading into the market close. Heading into the close of this show as the market remains open, but we'll take a live look from Money 2020. Stay with us.
If I go back to 2021, it was really the first time in the company's history that we actually had an investor day where we showcased our first essentially 3-year strategy for the group. And it was very clear, very focused strategy. It was really about diversification, about the fact that we wanted to increase the franchise value of our reinsurance business, but we also wanted to get scale and expand on the insurance franchise. Once you have that roadmap and that vision and you have excellent people, it's amazing what you can accomplish. And I look at where we are now, 5 years later, basically. The company has more than doubled in size. Our stock has gone up over 60% over that period of time, better than the S&P. Our book value per share, which is a critical measure in insurance, is also up over 60%. And we have improved pretty much every facet of the company, from underwriting discipline to operating discipline. But one of the most important things we have done is we have created a culture of inclusion and collaboration. That's frankly what allows us to accomplish what I just discussed. One of the great things about insurance is that we have jobs for everybody, regardless of where you come from. But no, I did not think that insurance was going to be where I ended up. Mm-hmm. I had gone to the Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies for my master's. I have a master's in international economics. I speak 3 languages, and I had a lot of experience in Latin America. So I thought there's got to be a multinational company out there that could use somebody with my talents. But I didn't know what industry, and I didn't care what industry at the time, to be perfectly honest. So I had applied to different companies. And the way I ended up in insurance is my older brother, who had worked for McKinsey & Company for a long time, had said, listen, AIG likes people with your background.
Welcome back to NYSE TV Live, everyone. I'm Kristen Scholler here in studio above the trading floor as we see stocks fractionally lower in today's session, just about 25 minutes into the start of trade. A very busy week between earnings and economic data. And oh, by the way, Bitcoin also on a tear above 70,000 for the first time since June. As we talk more about digital assets and the future of finance, I want to bring in my colleague, Trinity Chavez, who is on the ground at Money 2020 in Las Vegas, talking all about these very topics. Trinity, it's great to see you. And what's on tap today?
Yeah, so in addition to our coverage, well, continued coverage rather, of Money 2020, we have a series of taking stock interviews lined up as well. I'm going to be speaking with the CEO of Modern Treasury, Dimitri Dadiomov. He is, he was talking about the company, the innovation behind starting this company. And just to give our viewers a little background, this is a company that was created to simplify B2B payments and the platform's impact on real-time or instant payment expectations in the United States. So we're going to be talking about, again, the mission behind creating this company, the company's growth, and the advantages of instant payments for businesses and consumers alike. We'll also be speaking with Michael Blaugren tomorrow. He is the CEO of Drive Wealth and former COO of the New York Stock Exchange. And he has some major announcements that he wants to share with us on the show, including expanding its European presence, new key partnerships that will further fuel the company's growth. And we'll also discuss recent tech integrations to further streamline broker access to 24-hour and fractional trading of U.S. securities, reinforcing Drive Wealth's international reach and compatibility. So, Kristen, I'm really looking forward to that interview. And so we have a lot on tap later today.
It's been great to see all the action there in Las Vegas. And just curious, too, being on the ground, what's the pulse? What's the general sentiment that you hear from some of the guests on the ground?
I mean, just that this is one of the major conferences that you want to be at from around the world. Again, a lot of people, from around 20,000 people, came all around the world just to be here at Money 2020 on the ground at the forefront of the discussions, as we've been covering here on the show. AI, regulation, cryptocurrencies, those are the major themes that are coming out of this year's event. But also, the extensive agenda, I'm sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied here, has really been designed to address the convergence of AI and finance from practical, regulatory, and strategic perspectives. So I think the last day, being tomorrow, is going to be a powerful close to the conference and continuing its focus on AI, transformative impact on finance under the human X machine theme this year. Sessions are going to include high-profile discussions, again, around AI and those payment systems, fraud prevention, cybersecurity, and consumer lending. And of course, executives from major financial institutions and AI firms such as Stripe, OpenAI, as we heard speaking on Sunday, right after Lynn Martin's fireside chat, as well as JP Morgan. They're going to explore topics like AI-driven trust and safety measures and AI's role in the relationship in the whole banking sector. Kristen?
Chavez, live for us on the ground at Money 2020 in Vegas. Trinity, thank you. We will be, of course, covering that tomorrow as well. That's going to do it for us on today's show. Of course, from Trinity in Vegas, myself here at the New York Stock Exchange, and our team. Thank you for watching. We got more busy shows on tap the rest of the week between earnings and economic data. We'll see you tomorrow.
reminded that it's not about the destination, it is truly about the journey.
My pleasure to greet you today from the center of the U.S. capital markets here at the New York Stock Exchange.
I want to just take a minute and not just talk to the people that are in the room, but I want to speak to the rest of the team around the globe. These are people that made this happen, and I know that there is no way we would be here if it wasn't for you.
Everyone at Flutter is proud to join such a distinguished list of companies on this great stock exchange.
Not many people get to do something big in this world, and we get to do something truly special.
This is such a wonderful place to both look back and look forward. Look how far we have come. I'm so optimistic about what lies ahead. It has been a privilege to be with you.